In today's video, we're covering all the latest signings and trade rumors. The trade rumors say we're talking with the Winnipeg Jets, the Buffalo Sabres, as well as the Philadelphia Flyers. Plus, we have some updates on the futures of Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews. Where might they end up for next year? Or are they even going to play? Plus, we have signings in Vancouver, Seattle, and Detroit. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here, Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot to cover here today. Of course, you probably saw it. If you didn't, here's the big breaking news just in the past little while here. This evening, the Ottawa Senators and Detroit Red Wings have finally completed the trade, sending Alex Debrincat to Detroit. Of course, it's been a rumored trade for a number of weeks. Basically, Debrincat did not want to play in Ottawa. We can safely say now all the different reasons we've heard about the ownership situation because of the sale, and I wanted to find out this and that and the other thing. Like, none of that I think really was true. At the end of the day, I think he just did not want to play in Ottawa or possibly in Canada and wanted to go home to Michigan. It's just quite that simple. I think at the end of the day, he could have played out a one-year deal in Ottawa at most and then become a free agent next year and signed to Detroit anyway. But Ottawa didn't want to take the chance of losing him for nothing. So, of course, they've gone ahead and completed the deal. So they traded him to Detroit. In return, they get a first-round pick, a fourth-round pick, defensive prospect Donovan Sebrego, and Dominic Kubalik, who is a fairly effective middle six winger, former 30-goal scorer, scored 20 goals another season as well. I think he could likely be banked on for 15 and 20 goals. If he can be a 20-plus goal guy in Ottawa and play second, third line, I think that's a pretty good player. He's 27, pending UFA, only making $2.5 million. So at least they get a useful player, a prospect, and a couple of picks. To me, I think considering Ottawa had no leverage here, you got to remember this is a restricted free agent who says, I'm not signing long-term with you. I'll take my one-year deal if I need to get to free agency next year, but that's it. This is kind of a similar scenario to the Dubois situation in Winnipeg. I mean, it wasn't quite as contentious, but it basically was very similar in a sense. Like, he's like, I'm not signing, so, trade me or sign me to a one-year deal. And basically, that's all he was going to do. And, of course, when it comes to a trade, even though he doesn't have trade protection, no team is going to take him if they're not going to get a new contract. And ultimately, he only would do that with Detroit. So, I mean, there was a few other instances with other teams where things got close and he did consider it, but at the end of the day, chose not to. He left money on the table to go home to Michigan. Like, Ottawa was offering him, believed to be around 8 times 8. And instead, he took 4 years at $7.875 million. In Detroit. So he didn't get the 8-year term. He didn't even get over $8 million. Like, that's pretty close to what the Senators were trying to get in arbitration, because he had a $9 million qualifying offer. They were trying to knock that down because you could do so by 15%, then a 7.65. So clearly the $9 million qualifying offer, nobody thought that was fair market value for Alex Debrincat. So clearly, like, I think he and his agent overplayed their hand when it comes to what they're looking for in the contract. Couldn't get it. Like, the term and the money were not available. Eiserman's a pretty known tough negotiator. So he's not going to win that battle with Stevie Y. You're just not. I mean, look at how hard of a time and how long things drag out with his captain, Dylan Larkin, who's a long-time Red Wing, who certainly he did not want to lose, but he also did not want to give in to many of the terms. He wanted to have them, but he wanted to have them on his terms. So he wasn't going to pay Debrincat to come in, who's coming off on a down season, more than his captain. It just wasn't going to happen. So at the end of the day, the contract is shorter term. Debrincat will be UFA again at age 29. He gets to go home to Michigan. We'll see if he can find some chemistry with Larkin. I'm sure they'll probably try him on the top line. I suspect you'll see Larkin, Debrincat, Raymond probably be your first line in Detroit this year, would be my guess. At least that's what they'll try, and see how things work out. But Ottawa, I think, makes out good as well. They're rumored to be getting or trying to get either Vladimir Tarasenko or another UFA to play within their top middle six as well. So if they can get a free agent forward who's, a 20-goal guy, and they can get a guy like Kubalik to come in, like, overall, I think they're going to be the same, if not better. So, and they don't have another long-term deal to factor in, because right now their cap situation is starting to get tight. And without the cap going up this year by more than $1 million, I mean, it's challenging. We should see things level out here the next few years as we get bigger increases. But endless to say that the whole soap opera here with Debrincat is done. He's a Red Wing now. So off to other things. I mean, if you want a little bit more details on the trade or more of a detailed analysis, I have the other video with the trade up on the channel. Some other signings we saw today. We saw the Vancouver Canucks sign Nils Hoglander, who was a pending restricted free agent. He gets a 2-year deal, $1.1 billion. That's obviously decent contract for him, especially he's put up 54 points in 141 games. So I think that's a little bit of a bet on him so that he can be better and improve. Obviously, we see a lot of deals at $1.1 million because that's the maximum you can bury in the minors and get the full cap relief from. That's not a coincidence. You see that a lot. So in his case, they're certainly hoping he can play on the NHL roster, but should things not work out and they need to put him down or send him down or go through waivers or anything in the future, at least that's there as that's a threshold that they can not have to worry about. The Seattle Kraken also came in terms of one of their RFAs, Cale Fleury. He gets a 2-year deal at $800K. He only appeared in, I think, 11 or 12 games last year for Seattle. He's been there for their 2 seasons, was taken in the expansion draft, but hasn't really been a regular player. So we'll see if he can make that jump this year, but a couple more RFAs. So Seattle's done with their RFAs except for Vince Dunn now. And Vancouver, of course, I think they still have some other business to take care of. I'm surprised we haven't seen any trades out of Vancouver, and it's been quite in the rumor mill too, which does surprise me. I think we will still see some more business out of Vancouver here before too long. So in some other news around the trade rumor mill, the Winnipeg Jets are a team that I think we're going to be a team to watch. We know they still have some business to take care of. They still have some players that are very likely to get dealt. Some other sagas kind of drawn out here. Kevin Weeks was on Twitter earlier, right after the Debrincat trade, saying now all eyes should be on Connor Hellebuyck. So I wonder if he has some insight and details saying that maybe things are heating up in conversations. He didn't put out a lot, but then again, sometimes he likes to put out those kind of teaser tweets just to kind of make you think things are happening. It's hard to say where things are at as far as the deal goes for him. In the last we had heard, teams like New Jersey and Buffalo were the main teams in the Hellebuyck sweepstakes considering making a move. But I think I'll be surprised if Hellebuyck is traded and signs an extension. I think he's probably going to hit UFA status next year because it's rumored that he's looking for money near Vasilevsky. And I was not sure that the teams that are interested are really prepared to do that. I'm not sure as much as he's a great goalie, that kind of money, it's just going to be tough where a lot of teams have a lot of, cap situations to deal with. It's going to be tough for him to find that money. He may end up having to take a little bit less, but he's certainly worth a comparable amount of money as close to Vasilevsky, maybe not quite as much. But if you look at the bodies of work in the last 5-6 years, I think he can be justified what his asking price is, but it's just tough for a lot of teams to afford right now. So we'll see. But the Hellebuyck will certainly become one of the bigger names out there now that the Debrincat deal is finally complete. And another name to watch in Winnipeg, too. There's been some talk that they're trying to shed a defenseman, preferably Nate Schmidt. Now, he still has 2 years at $5.95. That would give them some more cap flexibility. It would also give them an opportunity to play some of their younger defensemen a little bit more, like Sandberg, Stanley. I'm not sure if they're going to move Billy Heinola. I know his camp were open to a trade because he was, not happy with the amount of opportunity he's been getting the last couple of years. So we'll see what the Jets do in this case. There was some speculation that a team like Anaheim might be willing to take on the contract of Nate Schmidt, but they're probably going to charge the Jets a decent premium to do so, and it's hard to say if and when they want to pay that, but they are working on something to try to unload that if they're able to. So, again, Winnipeg not only was stifling Hellebuyck, but a defender likely could get bumped out too, so we'll see one of the business they take care of here in the near future. Buffalo also still working on moving Victor Olofsson. Obviously, he's a middle six goal scorer who can be good on the power play. To be a guy who can score 20, 25 goals, not unrealistic, not making a ton of money, 1 year at $4.75, so you're not coming into a long-term deal. There was some talk that he may end up going to Chicago. Obviously, I wouldn't be completely opposed or shocked if we see him even go to a team like Arizona. Arizona obviously has been looking to add some quality NHL players, trying to get a little bit better. They already added enough, though they may not want to add any more in the forward group. It's difficult to say. But one of those two teams likely, I'm sure, would be willing here, but Olofsson as a player to watch. I mean, we could be surprised. Maybe he'll end up going somewhere else, but that is a contract that Buffalo would like to move. With all the additions they've been able to make and the young players were moving up, taking spots in their roster, it's just kind of affected where he's at on their depth chart, where he fits in, and just a case where they need to move along. So we'll see. Now, when it comes to Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane, we have some updates on their futures and what we might see. Now, when it comes to Jonathan Toews, all indications right now are that he might be done and he may not play next year. I know I see Mark Spector of Sportsnet, who covers the Oilers. He had said, of course, it sounds like the agencies must send out lists of free agents to teams of this way of communicating with them, saying, hey, if you're looking for players, here's who we have who's available for free agency. And he's not showing on, like CAA would be his agency with Pat Broussard. He's not showing up on any of their lists that are being floated around the league for teams looking at UFA. So if he's not even listed, that says that his agents are not even actively trying to find deals for him. So that kind of leans into the idea that he probably doesn't want to play. I know at the end of the season, a lot of the reporters that were covering Chicago and that were around for his final games kind of said a lot of them had the vibe, that they just felt the vibe off of him that he probably wasn't going to play anymore. But, maybe can he be lured out of that and change his mind? You never know. There was some teams that were interested. I mean, he would probably have to take a 1-year cheap veteran deal. If he's going to play, that's what it would have to be. And the question is does he have the desire to try to push himself? Because we know he's been a lot through his health in the past couple of years, and he's won lots of championships. He's accomplished plenty. So, if he doesn't have that burning desire to push himself for another championship, then, if his health isn't up to it, then he might be done. But right now, all indications are that Jonathan Toews' agents are not actively trying to find him a contract. So most of the speculation is that he's likely going to retire, but of course, that's not been officially announced. And I would suspect that it probably won't be. I would think he's probably going to take his good old time. At some point, maybe we'll hear of a news conference. If he's going to announce it, I would suspect that he probably will do it through the Blackhawks, would be my guess. And we'll see what happens. Like, either be later this summer or into the fall. I don't know. Some players take their good old time, even though they know they're not going to play. They just don't make a big deal about announcing it. So we'll see what he decides to do. When it comes to Patrick Kane, there was a recent NHL.com article, mailbag type article from Dan Rosen. He was asked about the future of Patrick Kane, and he indicated he still feels the most likely teams to sign Patrick Kane would be the New York Rangers, the Buffalo Sabres, who of course would be like his hometown team, and the Devils. So all within the New York State or general close by area. So certainly he played with the Rangers last year, and it sounds to me like Patrick Kane might not make a decision or sign anywhere until later into the offseason, maybe even. I'm not sure how long it's going to push it. I think teams would, if they're going to sign him, they probably would prefer to sign him before the season starts, because if you sign a little later, then you get a prorated cap hit, which is going to be a bigger number. So for cap purposes, it would be better if he signed sooner than later. So we'll have to see how things work out. He could maybe, because the Rangers were rumored to be maybe talking about bringing back Tarasenko. I haven't heard them mentioned lately. It seems to be between the Canes and the Sens on the Tarasenko front is all the way but here now, especially after the Debrincat trade happened earlier tonight. Lots of speculation that they're very much in the running now for Tarasenko, but Carolina's in that mix too. But no mention of the Rangers doesn't mean that they won't jump back in. But I could see them maybe going for a cheap deal on Kane. After a hip surgery, I would think he's going to have to probably take a short-term, cheaper deal to kind of prove he's still an effective player and can bounce back from that surgery before he gets, anything more significant. So we'll see on that front. Hard to say. Of course, we still have that Tony DeAngelo trade in Philly that I thought would happen today, but it did not. It was rumored to be Tony DeAngelo with 50% salary retention going back to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for a prospect. And that was likely rumored to be announced today because it had to be more than 1 year after he was traded to Philly from Carolina for them to retain salary and trade him back. Now, today would be a year and a day. So a lot of people thought today would be the day, but it never happened. So as far as we know, we'll still keep an eye out for that, because clearly we haven't heard any rumors that it's followed through or that the Canes aren't interested anymore or anything of that nature. So we'll see. When it comes to the Leafs as well, I do want to mention the Leafs quickly too. Will Nylander and Austin Matthews, we do have an update on that front. Certainly, it sounds like the Nylander camp and the Leafs are still about $1.5 million or better apart in contract negotiations. I know Dave Pagnotta was on NHL Network earlier with a latest update saying that from what he's heard, that Nylander's camp is still looking for over $10 million on a long-term deal. So we're probably looking at about 8 times 10, or maybe a little bit more. Like 10's like the bottom line minimum for the rumored asking price is. It could be a little bit more than that. So we're looking at about $80+ million over 8 years. Now, Matthews is not looking to sign any more than 5 years, preferably 3 or 4, and likely going to be at least 13. If he takes a 3-year deal, you're probably looking at 13.2, 13.3, and the closer he gets to 5 years, the number is going to climb closer to 14 or slightly over is what the rumored asking price is going to be on that front. But Pagnotta was saying that Matthews most likely will not sign. He'll drag it out because he wants to know what's going on with Nylander first. So it sounds like the Leafs are content with that. The Leafs are more concerned with getting the Nylander deal done anyway, because I think sounds to me like they have more concerns that they're going to be able to get it done, whereas at least they have more confidence that Matthews definitely wants to stay, and then they're not going to have too hard a time getting it done. But if things don't go well with Willie, then that's a problem. They did, based on their cap situation, I just don't see how they can really afford to pay him over $10 million in a long-term deal, because that means you're then going to have Matthews go up starting next year to at least 13, and then Marner is going to be due the year after. And if Willie's getting over 10 and he's getting 13, Marner's going to want probably at least 12, 5, something in that range. Like, he's very productive and very valuable. Like, he can make an argument that in a lot of ways he's as valuable as Matthews. I mean, Matthews is center. They typically get paid more. He does score more goals. But Marner's, equally important for the play driving and the setup and the PK and, all that stuff. So, I don't know. It's going to get a little bit under the hand. And I do wonder if it's very much leading, like a lot of people are speculating, it could lead to a Nylander trade. So we'll have to see. But there's still a huge gap there. But I wonder, my concern if I'm the Leafs, and if I'm a Leaf fan, which I'm not, but if I were, what I'd be worried about is if the Leafs get to the point soon, because you get to wonder, what's the cutoff here? At what point are they going to stop negotiating with Willie and be like, okay, this isn't happening. We're going to have to trade him. And how is that going to impact Austin Matthews' decision? And is it? Is he, is it going to matter to him? I don't know, right? That's the concern right there. So, because you can't risk losing Matthews. That would be too, you just can't recover from that. That's just too big of a hit. Trading any of these guys is going to be tough, and it's going to be tough to win the trade, let alone him. So we'll have to see, but right now things are still really far apart in Toronto. As far as other cost-cutting measures the Leafs are considering, of course, there's still a Matt Murray buyout that's likely coming, or trade, likely a buyout. And then TJ Brody's name is out there as well as a potential cost-cutting measure, but I don't think it's a player they want to trade, but if they feel like they need to save money to make other improvements, and he is a name that's under consideration, I guess. But we'll see. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but he's, according to Pagnotta, his name has been mentioned in the rumor mill. So we'll have to wait and see how things go. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.